Hi there, I'm your host. Today, we're diving into a story that's purely for the love of the game, a project that totally captured the engineering spirit of Hacker News. Someone spent 6 months doing something that, by their own admission, they had absolutely no practical reason to do. And you know what? That's exactly why I love it. So here's what happened. Someone took tmux, the terminal multiplexer that's been rock solid in C for years, and decided to port all 67,000 lines of it to Rust. Not because anyone asked them to, not because tmux was broken, but because, as they put it, it's like gardening but with more seg faults. And honestly, that's the best project motivation I've heard all year. The technical journey here is fascinating. They started with C to Rust, which is this transpiler that automatically converts C code to Rust. Sounds quaint in theory, right? Well, the transpiler did its job, technically speaking. It successfully converted everything, but the resulting code was an absolute monster, 3 times larger than the original C code, and completely unmaintainable. We're talking about auto-generated Rust that looked like it was written by someone who learned programming from a fever dream. So our intrepid developer basically had to throw all that away and manually rewrite everything from scratch. The final result? About 81,000 lines of Rust compared to the original 67,000 lines of C, so roughly a 20% increase in code size. But here's the kicker that's got everyone talking. It's all unsafe Rust. Every single line, which kind of flies in the face of the usual rewrite it in Rust for memory safety narrative we hear so much about. The Hacker News discussion on this is pure gold. You've got 292 comments, and most people are surprisingly supportive. There's this wonderful appreciation for someone doing a massive engineering project just because they wanted to learn something. One commenter compared it to climbing Mount Everest. You don't do it because it's practical, you do it because it's there. But not everyone's singing praises. There's this one commenter, USR Bin Bash, who basically went scorched earth on the whole thing. Their argument? If you're writing all unsafe Rust, you're getting 0 memory safety benefits, the codebase is now bigger, and for something like tmux that isn't performance critical, why not use Go instead? And then, just to twist the knife a bit, another user actually found a use after free bug in the Rust version, which, yeah, that's not a great look when Rust's whole selling point is preventing exactly those kinds of bugs. What really struck me about the discussion, though, was all the war stories about C to Rust conversions. Developers were sharing these horror stories about struct alignment issues, pointer truncation bugs, and all the classic nightmares you get when you're trying to make 2 languages play nice together through FFI. One person described debugging a crash that turned out to be a 64-bit pointer getting truncated to 32 bits somewhere in the translation layer. Just chef's kiss for anyone who enjoys debugging horror stories. The author's attitude throughout all this is refreshingly honest. They're not trying to sell this as the future of terminal multiplexers or claiming tmux needed to be rewritten. They did it to learn, to see if it could be done, and probably because sometimes you just need a really hard problem to sink your teeth into. There's something beautifully pure about that. And you know what's interesting? This whole project raises some pretty important questions about the Rust ecosystem. We talk a lot about writing things in Rust for safety, but when you're porting low-level system software that's doing a ton of pointer manipulation and Unix system calls, you often end up with unsafe Rust anyway. So what's the actual benefit? Is it the learning experience, the potential for future safe abstractions to be built on top? Or is it, as our gardening-minded developer suggests, just something you do because it's there? The community seems to think there's real value here, even if it's not immediately obvious. Several commenters pointed out that having it in Rust, even unsafe Rust, makes it easier to gradually introduce safe abstractions over time. Plus, now we have a tmux implementation that can potentially be embedded in Rust applications without FFI overhead. But my favorite comment in the whole thread, someone said this project is delightfully pointless in the best possible way. And honestly, in a world where every side project needs to be a startup or solve world hunger, there's something refreshing about someone spending 6 months on something just because they felt like it. Sometimes the best projects are the ones that make absolutely no business sense whatsoever. And that wraps up today's Hacker News Daily for July 3rd, 2025. Out of 30 stories vying for attention today, this tale of one developer's quixotic quest to rewrite tmux and Rust captured the community's imagination with 868 points and nearly 300 comments. It's a reminder that not every line of code needs to change the world. Sometimes the most interesting projects are the ones undertaken purely for the joy of the challenge, the learning experience, or simply because someone wondered, what if? As we head into the holiday weekend here in the US, maybe take some inspiration from our tmux-rs developer. Find that impractical project you've been putting off. Write that code that nobody asked for. Port that application to a language it has no business being written in. Because sometimes the best engineering happens when we stop asking why and start asking why not. I'll be back tomorrow with more top stories from Hacker News. Until then, keep coding, keep learning, and remember, not everything needs to make sense. Sometimes it just needs to compile. Eventually.